everybody, welcome to Unscripted, where we're all about inspiring better conversations and thinking more critically and deeply about faith, life, and leadership. And look who I have back in the hot seat. Here is my friend and pastor, Michael. How are you?
Thanks for having me back. You had so many other great guests.
Yeah.
No one really wanted me back, so I guess there's no one else left for this week. It's back to me. Is that the deal,
It's
Sam?
back to you.
Okay.
No one else. You're
Okay. Well, good job with the guests. I watched all of them.
Awesome.
And it was really fun for me to see.
Yeah.
So I purposely didn't come and listen live because I wanted just to watch and enjoy, and it was really great. Really,
That's
really
awesome.
great. So tell Meg that I said awesome.
Yeah.
It was fun to see you nervous with her. If you didn't
I was
see,
so
if you
nervous.
didn't see that one, go back and watch that because you have a totally different personality in that interview than all your other interviews. So that was good. It's good that she scares you a little bit.
It literally felt like you were in my living room. Like people were like watching
Yeah.
in my living room because that's just how we are. We're like joke around with each other. We're silly with each other. I never know what she's gonna say. She still surprises me, which
Yeah.
is awesome.
Yeah. No,
It
you
was fun.
could definitely tell the difference. That was fun. And good old Pastor Danny, he came on strong. So that
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
Normally he's right there behind the camera. And instead he was here and it was fun to see him. I thought he did a really good job. So it was fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being willing to give up the chair for a little while. I appreciate that. You always get the chair whenever you want the chair. You can have it.
Great.
So just putting that out there.
All right.
Awesome.
You always save the tough questions though. So I'm curious where we're headed to.
Well, yeah, I'm really excited about today. There's so many things. I mean, we could go anywhere with this, but there's like one question. I feel like I always have this hyperbolic question, right? Like
Hyperbolic.
right? Like really like to the
Have
extreme.
you been reading or something, Sam? Come on, hyperbolic.
Once in a while I read.
Hyperbolic.
Do you know what that means?
A lot of bollock?
Pretty much, yeah, right? No, I mean like these questions that are like to the insane extent.
Hyperbaric, like a hyperbaric chamber for scuba diving.
Oh, there you go. All right. Does that mean like extreme pressure?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the hyperbolic question is, I understand it would be like the most exaggerated, like the fullest exaggeration. So like I'm
Okay.
exaggerating when I ask this question.
All right.
So, but I think it helps us like really get to the thing.
Okay.
So here's my hyperbolic question.
Hyperbolic question. I hope you're right because people are probably looking this up right now.
I hope so. And
Email
if I'm wrong,
Sam, not
tell
me.
me I'm wrong.
He
It'd
used
be
it.
great.
Okay. Great.
All right. So here it is. When should we cancel people?
When should we cancel people?
Yeah, when should we? Like, so you've heard about like cancel culture. That's the thing.
Cancel culture.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
got
like
it.
cancel
'Cause
culture.
cancel people's like out of an old mafia movie or something. Like
Well, that could be scary, but
we're-
like not
we're
within
gonna-
that frame.
You're going to cancel Vito. Okay, we never want to hear from Vito again. Take
But that's
Vito
almost
to
what
the
happens
river.
with cancel culture, right? Like, so somebody does something or says something, or you dig up something from their past, and then you find that out, you air that out to everybody, and then apparently people say you're now canceled, and because you're canceled, you like don't get any more. Like celebrities, they won't get any more engagements. They won't get any more opportunities. They're like off. They're off the grid. They don't get what they're supposed to get anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm curious from
So
your.
that's a new thing, though. This
Is.
term cancel culture, I mean, is maybe like a year old or so where it really started to become known. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's been around for a while and I didn't hear it, but
Yeah.
but it's everywhere all the time now, cancel culture.
Everywhere all the time now. Exactly.
Okay, so the reason you're asking about that is because the new sermon series.
Yeah,
huh?
new sermon series.
Okay, the new sermon series is called Cancel Culture.
Yeah,
And
it's coming up.
it's taking a whole different look at it, though.
Yeah.
It's not about celebrity or anything like that. It's about focusing on God and what he says, what Jesus has to say, versus what we learn in culture.
Definitely.
So okay. So that's why you're asking me, but that's not the question right now.
The question right now is, when is it okay to cancel somebody? When should you cancel someone?
When should you cancel someone?
Yeah.
Well, and what exactly do you mean by cancel? Though?
Like write them off. Like they're done. You're never going to associate with them again. They're out. They're done.
Well, there's different ways you can do that, right? Like,
Yeah.
What do you mean, church, or do you mean a friendship, or a family relationship, or a business relationship? There's all sorts of different relationships. So I think it would be important to know what kind of relationship we're talking about. So canceling someone, if you look in the Bible,
Yeah.
in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, Paul's writing.
Yeah.
And there's a dude that's doing some really messed up stuff.
Yes. Okay. Got it. I'm with you.
And Paul basically says, he's got to be out of the church. He's got to deal with the consequences of his behavior.
Yeah.
He basically says you turn him over to the devil.
Yeah.
And he deals with the consequences of his behavior. But that's not like a punishment. Here's where you got to get right. That's not like a punishment from God. You want to hurt this person. But as Paul writes, it's so they come back to God.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can be so messed up, there's consequences that you deserve. Maybe you do something illegal and you need to go pay the price for that in some form, right? So there's natural consequences. You turn people over to that. But the hope for that person is because of those harsh consequences, they would come back to God. That their physical body would experience some suffering, but their soul would experience salvation, because that harshness in their life would turn them back to God. They'd find God again. God would welcome them back and forgive them. But they might have to go through some stuff. So in the church world, that's kind of the cancel culture thing, where someone is canceled. They're never canceled from God or from a relationship with God or with other Christians. However, their behaviors might preclude them from being part of something for a while until they dealt with the reality of what their behaviors actually were.
Yeah, totally. So this is really interesting because in like the cultural world, people get canceled and it's like they're done. There's no coming back. There's completely off. Like there's just no possible way for them to come back. But in what you're saying is, in the Christian world, in a faith-filled world, there's never an end to it. Like there's always a possibility for them to come back.
That's what's so different about God that I wish people would understand. People think if I step away from God, I'm done. Or I did step away from God years ago, so we've just been apart. God is just always right there hoping that you turn back, giving you every opportunity to turn back, hopefully moving in your life to help you turn back. But once you turn back, you're back.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be a life story where you're kind of close to God, and then you step away and maybe you do some things that God wouldn't approve of. And then you come back and maybe walk with God for a while, and then maybe take a step backwards again. That's kind of a normal part of life at times. And some people can make very dramatic steps away from God, or maybe just small steps, like I stop praying, or I stop listening to worship music, or whatever it might be, and kind of drift for a bit. Super common. But then what I've experienced with people is they always at some point realize, like, wow, I've been drifting and it hasn't been good for me. You know, COVID's been a thing. Like we've seen in COVID, like people have drifted away from attending church.
Yeah.
You can't go to church every Sunday for a long time, and you develop other habits on Sunday morning. Maybe it's sleeping in, which is just super nice. Or maybe it's golfing or fishing or ice fishing in the winter, whatever it was. And now I do this on Sunday morning, I've kind of stepped away from church. And it's happening in churches all over the world. But also what's already begun to happen is now that churches are meeting again, people are saying, wow, that wasn't a good decision. I kind of walked away from my faith for a bit. And I noticed in my life that I'm not as happy. I don't have as much joy. I have more stress or whatever it may be. And they're kind of coming back. So church has always been here for people, not RCC, but church worldwide. God's church has always been there for people who want to turn back. And God certainly has always been there, even if you don't go to church. So you're never canceled by God.
Yeah, and
you choose it. You have to choose to not want God.
And that's the interesting part, right? Like, so, and I want to get into this a little bit. So when I was in college, I was in a rhetoric class and basic communications. We would analyze some speeches. And one of the really, like the most interesting speeches that we looked at, I don't remember who gave the speech, but we were trying to understand as we analyzed the speech was what was the way that someone, a public figure or whomever, would give a speech where they had done something wrong and they then owned up to it in the proper way and then could move forward. Like, how do you get past that blame and negativity? Like there's a certain set of things. And I don't remember all the details. My rhetoric professors, if they ever watch this, might be like, you forgot X, Y, and Z. But the one thing I remember really, really clearly was that you had to own it completely. So if you did something wrong, if you messed it up, there was this moment where you had to say, I did it. And you're not deflecting it, not saying so-and-so, such and such person was part of the reason for it to happen or anything else. It was, I did it, I take full responsibility, and now I'm going to move forward. And it was super interesting. And it gets me to thinking about within the church, when you talk about that, that 1 Corinthians passage where Paul's talking about cast that person out, let them experience, be consumed by the negative stuff in the world, and then maybe they'll be saved. There's a part where I wonder, like, at what point, and how do we as a church navigate when somebody does something? How do you know, like, it's okay for them to get back in? Is there like a full apology needed? I know that's a hard question, and then normally we're not in a place where we're relationally that close, where you're just kind of coming and going. But there's this part where
that's hard. I think when you're on a hard topic like this, I think it's best to try to make it personal. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's be real. It's unscripted, so let's be real. I think it's important. You mentioned owning up to a mistake first, right?
Yes.
That's the first step.
Yes.
So for me in my life, just last week, there's someone who has been going about town saying really bad things about me.
Sure.
You've heard it.
Yeah.
And essentially what they're saying is, I took the staff to a gathering for dinner and to a comedy club. And it was a horrible thing for me to do. That I'm a really bad guy. That I'm a horrible leader. I should have never done something like that. It shows what kind of man I really am. They're saying all this bad stuff. This is the person that was my friend for many years. And they're saying all this bad stuff about Tom. And the reality of it is this. Yes, I took the staff to a Christmas dinner, and then we went to a comedy club. That's exceptionally true. The sad part is the comedian swore quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So this person thinks I'm a horrible dude for doing this. I looked him up online first. I watched some of his clips on YouTube. It didn't look like he was going to swear a bunch. And then he did, and it was uncomfortable. That's my mistake, right? So I totally own that. I should have looked into it more. I should have figured it out better. I did a little bit of research. I thought it was going to be fine. And in the end, he swore, and it wasn't the most appropriate place to be, for a church staff. It just wasn't. I wouldn't do the same thing again. Yeah. So there's my mistake. There's me saying I wouldn't do it again. That's owning up to it, right? Now, if the other person still wants to say bad stuff, they're still going to say bad stuff. And you can't be uncanceled by them. That person's canceled me. Yeah. You can't be uncanceled. It's up to them to respond. So if you flip that now, okay, because that's how it feels from one side. If you flip it, and it's the other side, right? Like someone, whether it's probably not going to be a celebrity or something, but someone in your life says or does something where you're like, okay, that's just out. If they come back to you and admit it, like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I would do it differently next time. It's on the faithful person's responsibility to accept them back, just like God does when you admit your mistake to God and ask him to forgive you, right? That's the deal we have with God. All of us, right? If you admit your mistake and ask for forgiveness and repent from your sin, God forgives. Yeah. We need to do the same for other people. Yeah. Right? So there's two sides to it. What you expect from others, but more importantly, what you can give to others. So I'm not so worried about cancel culture for who's going to cancel me. That's on them. But who am I going to cancel? Because I have opinions about everything too. Yeah. Whether what someone says or does or whatever, I have opinions about it. But I don't really have the right to cancel them, especially if they're coming to me as a person of faith to talk it out. Yeah. So that's where it's real for everyone who's listening right now. Because I think we all kind of want to cancel people sometimes. It might be someone on TV that you just don't want to listen to anymore, so you don't tune in. That's easy. But the people in your life day to day, your coworkers and your family, that's where you really need God's direction. And he shows you exactly how to do it himself. Where you need God's direction and God's example to follow, and then you know how to treat other people, whether it's cancel culture or not. Yeah. Because culture always changes. Culture is always changing. Here, I'm drinking Lacroix sparkling water. Maybe they'll, I don't know if that'll get us some money from Lacroix or not. Probably not. Probably right? But this is hibiscus, and it's my new favorite flavor.
It's actually really good. I've tried this one.
Tasha's in here right now, and she calls it hibiscus, but I think she's totally wrong. So everyone can look that up and text message Tosh if it's hibiscus. Anyway, years ago when I was in college, I had a roommate, and she would buy water and put it in the fridge. I thought she was nuts. Water's free. Who buys water? I thought it was the dumbest thing ever, right? And I would tease her about it. Other friends would come over. I'd point out her Perrier or whatever it was in the fridge. Like, it's so dumb. She buys water, right?
Yeah, I definitely am on the same train.
And then eventually, I started buying water. Like little water bottles that are so convenient. You can put them in the boat or whatever. And now I'm all the way up to this stuff, which I hated when I first tried it, like fizzy water, sparkling water. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. Water. You brought it up to me years ago.
I did.
Like, no, I don't think I like that. And now I like water.
Now everybody drinks it all the time.
So I've changed with culture. Okay, I now purchase water. Good grief. So culture changes. Truth doesn't change. Truth is always truth. What was true of God 2,000 years ago or 5,000 years ago or yesterday is still true with God. So we have to align more with truth than with culture. We don't line up with culture. We don't try to copy culture. You try to line up with God's worldview. You have a godly worldview versus a cultural worldview. That's what's so important.
Yeah. I think that's incredible. I love that example because it's super true that culture changes all the time. And I definitely, a long time ago, was on the boat where I didn't drink that stuff. I hated that stuff so much. I thought it was disgusting.
LaCroix ought to give us at least like $10 or something.
Or like a free case, right?
Something.
There you go.
Just so you know, no one pays us anything for these podcasts.
Ever. But if you want, just kidding. But I think it's actually a really good point because, I mean, there's so many things that have changed through culture over time. But I think the thing that I'm really excited about to get into with this series, I mean, this whole summer we're going to be talking about it, and it's going to be through the lens of a particular book of the Bible. I think it's going to be amazing. With that, there's some things that don't change. And I also, it's been really interesting to watch culture from a distance. I mean, we're all part of it, so we all see it play out on TV, and like celebrity this, celebrity that, politician this, politician that. Everybody's getting canceled left and right. It's a thing. But I don't like the fact that it leaves no room for redemption. And that's scary to me, because I never want to live in a world or be part of a group of people that has no room for somebody to say they're sorry and then reemerge, like come back after some work. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I want to get at that a little bit more. Like, what does that look like to do so in a healthy way? Say you made a mistake. So say you're the person that's getting canceled. What do you do? Like, how do you, if you're in that mindset? I mean, it's not cancel like in the celebrity sense of the word, but say you're in a job and you mess up and people are just at you with it. What do you do?
Well, again, I think it depends. Like in the situation I mentioned for myself, I owned it because I saw my own mistake in it.
Yeah.
So if you did make a mistake, what you do is you own your mistake. Like you talked about your professors teaching you in a speech.
Yeah, you
own it. It's not that big a deal. Like everyone makes mistakes. So it shouldn't be that big of a deal for anyone to just admit a mistake. Because if you're mature at all, you realize everyone makes a ton of them, yourself included.
Yeah.
So just admit it. If you've messed it up, just say I messed it up. Even if you purposely mess something up. Like I made that mistake a bit by accident, but even if I would have done it on purpose, whatever. I messed up. It was a giant mistake, and I'm sorry. The plan is never to do that again.
Yeah.
That should mend any relationship.
Okay.
You can't be like, wow, I'm never wrong, right? That's not going to fix anything.
No.
Or you can't say you're wrong and then just keep repeating the same mistake. So that's what you own on the mistaker, the one who made the mistake side of the equation.
Yeah, but then what about okay, that's great, because I think that's true, and I think we can all be on the board with that. But I'm realizing the more important question is more so on the opposite end. If you're the group that's working with the person that made the mistake, how do you navigate that? Like, what's required?
Well, again, sorry. For many years, I've been a pastor many years. Okay, so you start with forgiveness.
Yeah.
God forgave them. So what, you're thinking you don't have to? That's very dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
You know, the person on that side is the one who can get in trouble with God, right?
Yeah.
The person who made a mistake and admits it and asks for forgiveness is forgiven, and they're totally clean with God. The person holding it against them, they're now the one at odds with God. Not even with the one who made the mistake, but with God, because they're refusing to forgive. If the other person was contrite, I made a mistake, I'm sorry for my mistake, please forgive me, I won't do it again, and they still choose to cancel them, their combatant is now God. They've made God their combatant, and they don't even realize it, because God says you must forgive. You don't have a choice to forgive, and if you don't forgive, God says, I don't forgive you. So that's what's so sad for these harsh people that hold things so tightly against others. They're the ones at odds with God.
Yeah.
So you have no choice. So as the person who made the mistake, if we all follow God, that's the premise here. As the person who made the mistake, if you really made one, you just admit it and ask for forgiveness because God said so. And then if you're the person who observed the mistake and called the person out, wanted to cancel them because of it, if they come back to you properly and apologize, you have no choice either. Your choice is zero. You have to do what God says you should do, and that's to forgive. And that fixes everything. Like if you and I have had a problem, I do the God stuff on my side as the creator of the problem, and you do your stuff on your side as the person who observed the problem and had an issue with it. If we both follow God, you and I are going to be fine with each other and with God. That's what people mess out on. They have problems with all these people. They're away from God. Just do what God tells you to do. He's seen people make mistakes for thousands of years. And now it's a big deal in the media. We can cancel someone. You know, it's a hot topic now. It'll be dead in another year and we'll never hear of it again. But the practice of excluding others, that's what canceling really is, to exclude someone.
Yeah.
That's been going on since the beginning of time.
Yeah, in Greek culture. So this is a fun thing, like just a crazy, wild thing. I think it was Socrates or some crazy philosophy thing. But if the worst thing that you could do to somebody was not kill them, it was to exclude them from the community. Yeah. That was considered excommunication. Like, oh, you're now no longer worthy enough of being here. That was the worst possible thing you could do to somebody.
Yeah, that's what happened with Socrates.
That's nice. That's very funny.
You never heard of him, right?
No.
Got excluded.
Did you just make that up on the
Yes.
spot? That's fantastic. I like it. Okay, good job.
You're scared like it's an actual historical person. But
No, I'm pretty sure I knew it.
got excluded.
Yeah, you're mocking me. Nice. That's good.
Sorry.
But it's the thing, right? Like you're the worst thing that you can do to somebody is exclude them.
Yeah.
And it's not honoring to it could be a I guess this is where I'm trying to figure it out. Like where are the lines in the sense that sometimes there have to be consequences. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that what I don't want to have people hearing is there are no lines that make it so that you can make sure you're safe going forward. So we talk about this with forgiveness often, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you forgive somebody, you're setting yourself free in some ways because you're not holding it against them, and you want good for that person. That's when you know you've forgiven someone. You want good for them into the future. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to associate with them anymore. Yeah. And that's the weird balance. Like I think that right now we're in a place where we want to exclude and want awful things for people for forever.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's a really scary place to be because that shows a heart that's really ugly.
Yeah. It's like this. If this Sunday you went in my office and took $20 out of my wallet and stole it. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. That'd frustrate me a bit. I wouldn't be so happy about it. If you came to me and asked for forgiveness and said you'd never steal again, I would forgive you instantly. I've been a Christian for a long time. I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
I have no choice. I need to forgive you because God directs me to forgive you. That's all very true. However, afterwards, there'd be a couple of changes. Number one, I wouldn't leave money laying out around you. Mm-hmm. It's dumb for me because maybe you'll steal it. Even though I've forgiven you, I don't want you to get more punishment or whatever. But leaving money laying out might be bad for you. It's tempting for you. It's difficult for you. So it's bad for you and it's bad for me because it's just kind of dumb to make the same mistake again. So there's forgiveness there, but you don't repeat the same actions. So you may no longer be a best friend with someone or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because of things that have happened in the past. But you can't hold on to anger and vengeance or whatever. That's, again, just bad for you.
Yeah.
You're the one wanting vengeance and want to get them and it's causing you to have this turmoil inside. They don't even care. They're out golfing, and then you're the one who's upset. So that's why forgiveness is so big with God, because it helps the forgiver more than it even helps the forgiven.
Yeah. Well, and this is why it's important to know that with God, some of these things are gray. And I know it sounds weird to say, but everybody wants to be black and white. Forgiven, everything's back to normal. Or not forgiven, and it's never going to be the same. Mm-hmm. There's a forgiven, and yet we're going to take steps back to normal. We're not going to go there immediately.
Exactly.
Because it's healthy and it's good, and that's how God designs it. Yeah. And I think it's really healthy because right now I think people want to say you're canceled and you're done completely, and we're just going to cut myself off from you for forever. Or you're not canceled, and it's like you did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
The real path is somewhere between those two. It's you're
it's
forgiven.
difficult.
It is harder,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's why our culture is having such a difficult time right now in these sorts of ways, because we don't want to do the hard work.
Yep.
It's hard work to see somebody who's remorseful and offer them an opportunity to get back to where they should be. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally agree. And our culture right now is extremely negative.
Yeah.
It's just whether it's politics or even sports. If you go on ESPN, so many titles are negative. That's what people are consuming. And it's scary, because if you consume that, that's who you become. You become super negative. That's just what's out there. So this whole cancel culture thing, it's incendiary. Like, it starts a fire. And it's like, oh, wow, look at this. So-and-so, this famous person said this thing, and they're horrible. And everyone talks about it for a couple of days. And it's like you vent a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then it's over. And that's just so bad for us. To be in the constant world of negativity is really bad for us.
So
don't eat negative stuff. That's, you become what you eat, in a food sense, but you become what you eat in an emotional sense too, or a spiritual sense. If you eat worship music and you eat scripture and God's truth, that changes who you are. It's healthy for you. If you eat poison, like lies and gossip and rumors and all the negativity in culture, that's what you're going to become.
Yeah.
You're just this negative, crabby person who's always unhappy and complaining about something. That is not what God created you for. When God formed you in your mother's womb, he wasn't thinking that. Right? Let's hope 50 years later this guy turns out to be an absolute crabby jerk. That's not what God wanted. But we turn ourselves into that if we don't listen to what God says we should do.
Why do you think we turn ourselves into that?
I think it's tempting. You know, that even the negativity like you talk about in the media or whatever, it's just kind of dirty and it's kind of voyeuristic. It's like, ooh, they said what? And it like tweaks your ear a little bit, right? Because that's who we are as humans. And then you start consuming it. And once you start consuming it, you only want more and more and more.
I got all that except voyeuristic. You've been giving me a hard time about words.
You're looking into their life. It's like you can see into their life and you can observe, but you're not really in it. You know?
Okay, that's good. I've never known. You've used that word a couple of times. This is the first chance to actually ask you what it means.
Oh, okay.
All right. So there you go.
I read a book once.
Good. Once or twice, maybe?
Yeah, a couple.
Okay, good. Okay. With that said, I want to get just a little bit more into one or two things with that. You said that's not what God wants. And I agree with you 100%. And we end up that way because, like you said, we're voyeuristic and it's a little dirty. We kind of like that. We get a little sense of maybe I'm better than that person. I can look down on them. I feel good about myself when I see it. And when I tell other people about it, that's something that's there. But
you're the superior person.
Yeah.
You're talking negatively about someone else instantly elevates you to the superior position.
Yeah.
That's why people do it.
Yes. And so that we don't contribute to it, what do you think the antidote is to it? How do you choose to live, and what kind of things can you replace it with that make it so that you're heading and sending things in a better direction?
Well, forgive my pastoral answer once again, but it's all laid out for us in the Bible. Like when you pursue goodness, and the fruit of the Spirit is listed out in Scripture, right?
It is.
You know, it's goodness and kindness and all these things that are proper and ordained by God and given to us by God. When you pursue those things, you start living that way. Yeah. And feeling those things. You become a kind person. You become a good person. But it's by God's direction. Yeah. So I don't have this giant scientific answer. My answer is, look at what God says to do and just do that. He's God. He knows. Yeah. Why would you go any other route? If God is willing to advise you in any aspect of your life, finances, family, relationships, whatever it may be, God tells you how to do it. It baffles me why someone would go, well, God said this, but I'm going to go the other way. Yeah. So I'm very simplistic in that, and it might be nice if I had bigger words or a more heady answer, but my answer is always just try to do what God tells you to do. God sent Jesus, his own son, to live as a man on earth, God embodied on earth as a man to then show us, so he tells us, he shows us. Now, it's not easy, right? Like I'd like to be more like Jesus. It's not easy, but the model is there. Just do that as ordained by God. Yeah, it's that simple.
What I love about, you mentioned fruits of the Spirit, one of the ones that I think, if you're looking at your life and you're seeing yourself quickly spouting things off, quickly absorbing information that is incendiary, negative toward other people, and you're quickly sharing that with other people, one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. Yeah. And if you can't control that, then you should think, how much am I filling myself up with that stuff instead of God's words, God's direction, God's actions, God's thoughts? And how much are you doing that, not doing that, and how much should you replace those two? Because I think it's a really quick indicator that maybe the stuff you're filling yourself up on and the stuff that you're happy to do, like the tongue is the if you can control the tongue, right? Yeah. That you control everything else. Yeah. I think that's a powerful moment or powerful thought to think about when you're thinking about how to not contribute to a negative form of cancel culture.
Yeah. Again, this is new for us. Culture is new every day for us. Nothing is new for God. And truth has always been truth. Yeah. So all these things we look at, how do we do this? How do we do that? It's the same way he told people to do it 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. It's the same thing Jesus walked the earth and told people 2,000 years ago. Truth has never changed. Culture is going to continue to change. That's why it's so good to have the anchor of truth that we have in God, in Jesus, in Scripture, that fortifies us, protects us from all this other stuff going on that you're trying to figure out that's hard to figure out. Yeah. But you can always come back to what God says and compare it to that. And that's what I do. Here's what I see in culture. Here's what I see God says. Okay, now I can form my answer from that.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think it helps root you because there's so many other options, and if you can fall back on that and you can feel solid and not feel like you're going to be swayed one way or the other. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Awesome. Trying to think if I have any other questions off this topic, but I think that's a lot of it. We covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time here about this particular topic.
It was fun being back.
I like having you and drinking hibiscus. I mean, maybe it'll be a thing.
Right.
Maybe you should try like
is that all, like 3 product placements.
You should try like all 3 bubble or sparkling water things and like try it and see if any of them see it. So
right.
it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you have like a favorite kind? Is it Lacroix? Do you try the other ones?
Yeah, it's Lacroix, I think. But I could be swayed with.
You could be swayed.
I mean, if it was free, maybe I'd like something else more. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'll never get on here and say I like something I don't like. I'll at least say that.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm not gonna drink like Joe's sparkling water and say it's awesome if it tastes like pond water, even if it's free, even if he pays me. Okay. I don't even know if there is Joe's sparkling water, but if there was, it better taste good.
It better taste good. My favorite is actually there's what is it called? There's stuff that actually has juice in it, so it's a little bit of juice. Spindrift, that's it.
Okay.
So it's not just sparkling water.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
Nice.
I really like that stuff. So if
Okay.
you haven't tried that, give that a try. All right. I don't
Got it.
know. Totally off topic. But anyways, thanks so much for being on here. I appreciate it. If you want, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel or iTunes or Spotify. You can find us all those places, or on Instagram at RCC Unscripted. And thank you, Mike, for being back. And we'll be back again here next week with a brand new topic. So
Sounds good.
have a good week. See you next week, everybody.